everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jada Brown, and I want to thank you so much for continuing to rock with your girl, right? Because I know you guys have not seen me since 2023, and that's because I have been busy. I have been working, I've been learning, I've been growing into my real estate career, and I'm excited to share all of the growth that I have had in this journey, and I want to share that with you guys. So thanks so much for continuing to be here. Thanks for watching this video, and make sure that if you're new, you subscribe, because I have a lot of great content coming up for you guys. Which brings me to my next point, and that is I am doing a series called Buying into Baltimore, right? And I want you guys to stay tuned. This is the first video. I'm going to talk about the first-time home buyers program, which is $10,000 for the city of Baltimore. And I'm going to talk about some of the other initiatives, grants, and things that they have going on in Baltimore. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first point that I want to address is why. Why do I want to invest in Baltimore, and why do I think you should invest in Baltimore? And I'm going to start this with a little bit of history. So everybody knows that Washington, D.C., or if you don't know, now I'm going to tell you, Washington, D.C. used to be the chocolate city of America, right? It is the nation's capital. It was predominantly black, and a lot of the people who owned in Washington, D.C. maybe did not see the value of where they lived, and they started going out into Maryland and these other places and selling their homes in D.C. for, like, you know, an affordable price. These investors started coming in, and they started snatching up these houses, fixing them up, and now those same people who sold their homes in DC can no longer afford it, right? It's too expensive, and if you can't afford it, it's not as cheap as it used to be. Let me give you another example. Where I'm from in West Palm Beach, gentrification is happening now. So there's an area that's called Cameron Avenue, right? This is our downtown area. This is our ghetto area, right? Or at least it used to be. Cameron Avenue is going through this gentrification that's spurred by private investment, as well as the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA of West Palm Beach. Private public, right? And so what happened is a lot of investors, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, started coming to West Palm Beach, Cameron Avenue, and buying these houses for a really affordable price, because a lot of the people who lived on Cameron Avenue did not see the value of where they lived, and they were happy that they were getting these offers, not understanding what the investors saw, right? And so they started selling, moving out west, right? Now, the people who own, they've left. Some have stayed, but majority have left. And now these homes are being flipped. They're being fixed and flipped, or they're being rented out. And now the rent, where a place used to be maybe $600, is now $1,600, $1,700. And the natives can no longer afford it, right? Because this was an impoverished ghetto area. And then you're seeing the cities coming down to West Palm Beach, and they're putting in skate parks, and they're, you know, giving business owners grants, and they're doing all these wonderful things to revitalize the area, but the natives did not have that foresight, and they're gone. I'll give you an example. I saw some people walking their dogs on Cameron, hanging out at the park, you know, exercising, and I was like, because I just couldn't see it, because I know that area. So back in the day, that was a predominantly, and I'm talking segregation area. Cameron Avenue was predominantly African American, and those African Americans were the professionals. Those were the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants. And when integration happened, they wanted to leave, go where other people were living, and they left, and what was left were those people who could not leave. So a little bit of history. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I believe that's what's going to happen to Baltimore. I believe that Baltimore is going to be revitalized. It may not happen in 5 years. It may take 2 decades. But what I do know is that this is the capital of Maryland, and I know that eventually it's going to be revitalized. So people are coming to me and they're saying, why would you invest in Baltimore? Because I have the foresight to see that this city is going to be changed. Okay, it's an important city in the history of America, and I don't believe that they're going to let it fail. So yes, it may be kind of rough now. People are saying it's ghetto, it's violent. Okay, the same thing was said about Washington, D.C. when it was the murder capital of the U.S. But now how much does a house cost in Washington, D.C.? They said that about Cameron Avenue, where I'm from. How much is a house now on Cameron? I can't even afford it anymore. And this was a place that my dad bought a house for $6,000, and it was a multi-family house. So that is the reason why I decided I'm going to invest in Baltimore. And this may not be an appreciation tactic right now, but it definitely is cash flow. So that's why I decided to invest in Baltimore. I believe in it, and plus there are so many grants and initiatives that the city of Baltimore is giving out, and the state of Maryland, that I believe that it just was a no-brainer for me. Okay, so that's why I decided to invest in Baltimore. So that was a long introduction to what this series is about. So this series is going to be about the different initiatives, the incentives, and the grants that they have in Baltimore. Let me tell you about a few of them very briefly. So they have the Baltimore City Employee Homeownership Program. They have Buying into Baltimore, which is a trolley tour. I'll do a video on that. They have Live Near Your Work, first-time home buyer incentive program. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And they also have the Vacants to Value Booster. So I'll make another video on that. And I also want to talk to some realtors who specialize in the Baltimore market. And I also want to talk to some lenders, just so you guys get like the whole picture, right? So let's get into it. Okay, so the first incentive that I want to talk about is the first-time home buyer incentive program. And so this program offers $10,000 to first-time home buyers with the household income at or below 80% of the area median income. And then they also have an additional $10,000 available to purchase within an impact investment area. And there's also a $5,000 bonus available for first-time home buyers who A, purchased a house that they have rented and occupied for at least 6 months, or B, have a disability or have a disability household member with a disability. So that is the first one that I'm going to talk about. And so I learned about this incentive program from my realtor, Rashawn Taylor, who specializes in Baltimore. So when I started looking, my plan was just to purchase, and use my cash for a down payment and closing costs. So shout out to Rashawn. He let me know that there are tons of incentives that Baltimore has. And what he suggested we did was have my husband, Jerome, solely be on the loan and application, because he is a first-time home buyer in the U.S. Like, he owns a property in Jamaica, but here in the U.S. he's a first-time home buyer. So Jerome did the pre-approval by himself, and then he also did the grant program by himself, right? So as you can see, there are several mini grants within the big grant. So you can get $10,000 if you're a first-time home buyer. You can also get $10,000 if you're buying in an impact investment area, and there is a map that I'll put up somewhere in this video so you can see where you would have to buy. Plus there's another $5,000 if you have a disability, and another $5,000 and if you rented the house that you're buying. So in total, that's 5, 10, 10, 20, $25,000 right there that you can use towards your purchase. So the first thing that you have to understand about this incentive is that you have to do some work. Okay, if they're going to give you $10,000, you have to do some work. So the first thing you have to do is be pre-approved. Okay, you have to be able to get your pre-approval from a lender, and then you have to take a course. So the course is 8 hours, right? And you can do that on Zoom. That's what we did. There's approved homeownership counseling agencies, and there's about 12 of them that you can choose, and the course is free. We decided to go with, what was the name of it? Go Northwest, the Garwin Oaks Northwest Housing Resource Center. And we did ours online because we had already been pre-approved and we wanted to hurry up and get through it. So we did ours on a Saturday. It was like 8 to 3 or something like that, and you do it via Zoom. And during the home ownership class, they're teaching you about a budget, how to be responsible, what home ownership takes in terms of, like, if the water heater breaks down, you know you have to replace it. So you have to have reserves, you have to have money, because yeah, you can get these incentives, but if you move into the house and your water heater goes, you have to replace it. They're teaching you about credit, responsible credit usage. They're teaching you about not using Uber Eats all the time and actually cooking at home. Like, it's a really important class because it's changing your mind from being a renter to being a homeowner and knowing what you have to do to be a homeowner, right? They also have an inspector come and talk to you, an appraiser, a lender, a realtor. They come and they have their presentations, and you're able to ask them questions about the home ownership journey. So that class is completely free. You can take it on Zoom, or you can go into the physical location and take the class. And then once you finish the class, then you have to have a one-on-one session with your housing counselor. So what we had to do was send our housing counselor all of Jerome's pay stubs, bank statements, all of his credit report that the lender pulled. We had to send all of that to her. He had to do a budget where he talked about how much that he's paying now for utilities, rent, car payment, insurance, and food, all of that stuff, and send it to her, right? And so once she got that information, then she said, okay, well, we can meet on Friday at 11 o'clock. Call via Zoom, and she goes over the budget, and she says yes or no, I think that you're ready for home ownership. So if she says no, then you have to try to get some of your expenses down or work on your credit if you want to get that grant. Or if she says yes, your debt to income is low enough, you qualify, she says okay, she sends you a whole email with information. But the most important thing that you get is the voucher. You take the voucher that she sends you, and she says yes, they are ready to buy. I give my okay for them to get the $10,000 or however much that you're able to get. You get the voucher, and then you give that to your lender. The lender fills in the information about the house that you chose, how much your interest rate is, how much your principal and interest is, how much you have in escrow, etc. Sends it back to you. Then you send that to your home ownership, your housing counselor, and then your counselor sends you back a certificate so you can have it. Because any incentive, this is important, any incentive that you get from Baltimore City, you have to have that certificate. And what that certificate says is they did the home ownership counseling. They spoke to me, their counselor. I gave them the A-OK for them to get a house and to get some of these grants, and here's their proof. So save that, it's very important. So once you have your certificate, now your counselor goes into the Baltimore City portal and fills in the application for you. Your counselor starts it. Now, one thing to know is that there are many people trying to get these grants, and the grants are limited, okay? So you have to really be on top of it. I've emailed my counselor 4 or 5 times. in 1 week. I've called them, I've left messages because I want the money, right? And they're dealing with a lot of people, and there are 12 counseling programs in Baltimore City. So imagine how many counselors work at one place times 12. So you want to make sure that you're looking out for your own interests, right? So make sure you follow up with your counselor. Your counselor starts the application for you on the portal, and then the lender finishes it. And once they do that and you're under contract, then it goes to somebody who works at Baltimore City. They look over it and they cut the check. Now, an important thing to remember is that you cannot be under contract before your counselor has the one-on-one with you, because they have to make sure that you are able to get the A-OK to move forward and that you can buy the house. If you're under contract before you get the A-OK from your housing counselor, then you are no longer able to get the grant. So don't do your first-time home buyers class on Zoom or in person, then go out with your realtor and say, oh, I like this house, let me get under contract. No, 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 no. That happened to someone in my class, and the housing counselor was like, nope, sorry, you can't be under contract. So that's an important thing to remember. Also, a really good thing to know, and this is what happened to us, is that you can stack incentives, right? So let's say you get the first-time home buyer incentive and you get the vacant to value booster. So that's $10,000 on top of $10,000. That's $20,000 that you can get to go towards your purchase, right? Another thing to be cognizant of is that there's an income limit on some of these programs. So like the first-time home buyer incentive program, there are income limits based on how many people live in your household. And you can't say, oh, 10 people live there and you don't have proof that 10 people live there. Like, they are pretty strict about that. They're going to ask who lives there, and you have to be truthful. So yeah, so I'll put up the chart on what the income limits are. I do think they're pretty generous. And just so you are aware, not all of the programs have an income limit, but this one in particular, what I'm talking about in this video, has the first-time home buyer incentive program. So like I said earlier, you can stack incentives. And so like what happened with us is that we got seller credits of 3%, right? And so that brought our, actually 3% plus she's paying for our recordation fees. So that brought us down to like $5,000 that our down payment and closing costs would be. Then we got the first-time home buyer incentive program of $10,000. And that whole $10,000 is applied to the down payment and closing costs. So we don't owe anything for that, right? Plus the extra like $4,000 that we had left over goes towards our principal. So all in all we have to do is come to the table with our earnest money deposit, which was $1,300, right? And the inspection, which was $400, plus the appraisal, which was $640. So all in all, we maybe spent $2,500, but we're not coming to the table with any down payment and closing costs. It's being paid for us through a grant, and then on top of it, the extra money's applied to the principal, and our house that we're buying appraised for more than what we're purchasing it for. So we have instant equity into the house. So why the heck would I not invest in Baltimore? Like, where else can you go for all these incentives? And we didn't even get all of the ones that I'm going to tell you about. Now, one thing that you guys need to be cognizant of is that the home that you pick for the first-time home buyer program, it has to be up to standard. You have to be able to live in it. The reason why I say this is because when you're buying a home, most of the time, and to protect yourself, you will have contingencies, right? And you're able to negotiate and get out of the contract if these contingencies are not met, and get your earnest money deposit back. So you're going to do your inspection contingency, your appraisal contingency, and your financing contingencies. And what this means is, number one, inspection. So you pay an inspector to go check the house and tell you you know, the standard of the house, how it looks, if it needs a new water heater, if it needs a new roof, if it has bad plumbing, whatever it is, they're going to tell you, right? They're going to tell you if all the outlets are working. They're going to let you know if the disposal works. It's very thorough and it's pages long. And so you as the buyer can say, all right, these things that they're saying is wrong with it, it's not that big of a deal. I want to go forward. And you can ask the seller to fix it or to credit you with money, right? Or if you say, oh my God, the roof needs to be replaced, I don't want to do this, you can back out of it. Show the seller that it has these issues, and you can say, I don't want to fix it, I'm backing out, give me back my money, right? Then the appraisal one is saying, all right, if you're getting a loan, the lender doesn't want to give you money to buy a house if it's not worth it. So let's say you buy a house and you say the purchase price is $200,000. You offer $200,000, but the appraisal comes back and says, actually, it's only worth $150,000. So either you have to make up that extra $50,000 or you have to back out, and now you can get your earnest money deposit back because the house didn't appraise at the purchase price. And then the last one is financing. So if your financing falls through last minute and you're not able to get the loan, then you're able to back out because the financing contingency. So I'm saying all of this to let you know that when you are getting the first-time home buyer grant, you have to have your inspector do your own inspection and also the city's report. It's called an HQS report, right? And so that goes to the city to let them know, okay, this house is up to code, this house is livable, because they don't want to give money for a house that's in shambles, right? So I just want to say that because the inspector is going to do 2 reports and you don't want to pay 2 times for the inspection. So make sure that your lender, your realtor, and the inspector all know that you're getting this grant and that they need to be aware of this so that you're not double paying to have the inspector come out twice. So when we did our inspection, my realtor gave the inspector the HQS report. He filled it in, pass or fail, right? Now, with our report, it's a lot more thorough because as the buyer, we want to know what's going on. The city just wants to make sure that you're able to live in this, right? And so they're going to say pass, fail, whatever. And ours, like let's say one thing failed, which was the hot water heater on our HQS report. Now, on our inspection, he said, okay, the hot water heater is functioning, but it's old and you're going to have to replace it. That's it. Right? On the HQS report, he put failed. So even though it's working up to the standard of the city, it needed to have been replaced. So we took that back to the seller, and the seller said, okay, I understand that they're getting these grants. We want to sell this house to them. We're going to replace the hot water heater, right? So that's how that works. And then not only that, but they also have to certify the roof. So with our situation, the seller paid a contractor $1,000 to come out and certify that the roof has at least 3 years left on it. And I literally just got that document. So let me show that to you. So you see, here's the invoice of it, right? And then here's the letter certifying that the roof still has at least 3 years on it. So the warranty begins 2/7/2024, right, which is when they went out to do it, and it ends 2/6/2027, because that's the next thing. The city doesn't want to help you get this home, right, and then next year the roof falls in and then you're calling them back and saying, I don't have the money to fix the roof, can you help me out? They want to know at least 3 years that the roof is in good enough condition that you still have time on it, right? So these are all the requirements that it takes to get that $10,000, and you know, you guys need to be aware of that. I also want to let you guys know that for these city grants and these government programs, you want to give yourself enough time to close as well, right? So just because you feel like you can, or your realtor feels like you can close in 15 days, you also have to be cognizant of the fact that it's like, this is the government. The wheels of the government move slowly, okay? There's a lot of bureaucracy and government. So you want to give them time to cut the check, because if you close before they cut the check, you don't qualify anymore. They're not gonna like let you pocket the money. Like, you pay for the closing fees and the down payment and then they reimburse you. That's not how it works. They're gonna cut the check, you know, and let it go to the title company, and then when you close, you know, the funds will be dispersed. So you want to give your closing at least 45 days, so you give yourself enough time for the government to cut the check and send it for your closing time. So make sure you're giving yourself enough time. This happened to us. I had our closing at 30 days and they were like, no, we can't do that. So we had a seller who understood and said, okay, let's do an addendum and stretch out the date. She wasn't nasty about it, but you never know how your seller is going to be. So make sure that you're giving yourself enough time so you can close. I recommend 45 days, and you can always push the closing up, of course, but you don't want to have to keep postponing it and the seller's like, sorry, but we're going to go with somebody else who has cash or who's ready now. You know what I mean? So yeah, guys, that is the first time home buyer incentive. It's really great, guys. Like, honestly, if you are in the Baltimore area and you're thinking about buying, I really recommend that you look into this incentive if you're a first-time home buyer. There's many other ones, like I said, and I will talk about those in this series. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If there's anything that I missed, please let me know and I will answer it in the comments. I'll also leave a link to the document that has the details of all the incentives, as well as the approved homeownership counseling agencies. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the lottery to people who attend the Live Baltimore Charlie tour, so you guys know, and then I have some other topics in the next videos. So thank you so much. I will see you guys in my next video. Please make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And I look forward to making more videos for you guys. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.